Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft. This is our live pre-show. My name is Taylor Roca. I'm the Director of Communications for the Western Hockey League, and I'm joined today by our local WHL Bantam Draft expert. He's the Manager of Player Development for the Western Hockey League. We've got Zach Hodder here with me. Zach, how you doing this morning?
Doing really good, Taylor. It's an exciting day for everybody involved. Obviously, unique circumstances, but I think we've made the best of it, and I'm just looking forward to getting going.
Absolutely. Certainly a different day in terms of what all Western Hockey League clubs are accustomed to when it comes to the Bantam Draft. Usually at this time of year, we're in a big conference room or a gala room, and we've got 22 clubs, we've got 22 tables, we've got dozens and dozens of people coming together all in one place, the culmination of a long year's worth of work when it comes to scouting for the Bantam Draft. So, Zach, how does that maybe change things for people, given that we're now in this digital setting today, considering the circumstance?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely more difficult for our clubs to do this remotely, but at the same time, just like they tell their players in game situations, you've got to be able to adapt. And our teams have adapted. For the past couple of weeks, they've been doing test runs. They've been working with their regional scouts, and they've been compiling their lists just like they would if it was a normal year. The one difference, obviously, being that this is all being done remote. So our clubs are more than prepared for the Western League Draft this year, but obviously just a little bit of different circumstances surrounding the whole event.
The event is a go, regardless. We would certainly never cross it off the calendar, and we're here today. So, interestingly enough, in another precedented circumstance, we've already got a player off the board, essentially. The pick is still to be entered formally this morning, but, you have Pats who hold the first overall selection in today's WHL Bantam Draft. Intention to select exceptional player status, Connor Bedard. They announced that they've signed him to a WHL standard player agreement yesterday, so plenty of excitement to kick off the draft. Zach, what can you tell us about Connor that makes him so special?
When you think about an exceptional player, in Bantam, and for Connor, you played under 18 this year. He played a year up. You think of a player that just dominates every game, and that's exactly what Connor did. He really is exceptional in all facets of his game. I think when he gets to the Western Hockey League, it's a great jump for him. It's going to be a great test. He's been playing up his entire life. He's going to be playing up again next year in the Western Hockey League, except you're going to be playing against a lot older players. He's going to be challenged not only physically and skill-wise, but also the grind of playing in the Western Hockey League. From all accounts, though, of what I've heard when I'm talking to Span Hockey Academy, this is a player that understands what he needs to do every single day to continue his development so that one day he can not only play in the Western Hockey League, but also the NHL.
We'll get to a little bit more on Connor Bedard a little bit later in the program here once we start the proceedings. But, we've got a little bit of sound and a little bit of viz out of Regina yesterday. General Manager John Paddock met with the media. Connor Bedard met with the media. So let's throw to that right now. Hear a little bit from Connor Bedard of the Regina Pats.
Most of us haven't seen you play. What type of player do you think you are? Perhaps who do you model your game after?
I mean, I don't think I model my game after. I watch a lot of hockey, obviously, and I try to pick things from different players, I think. I think I'm a pretty good 200-foot center, and obviously where I'm best is in the offensive end. And, hard worker, and I like to think I can produce pretty well, but obviously next step is going to be tough, so I'm just going to work as hard as I can and next year play as hard as I'm able to.
You've known for a little while that they planned on picking you, but what is it like now to know that you are officially a member of a WHL team?
Yeah, it's that, like I said, it's pretty crazy. It's surreal, obviously. Dreaming of this since you're five or six, watching the dub, and obviously this is a big step in my hockey career, so I'm super thrilled, and it's definitely really surreal.
Yeah, hi Connor. What's kind of the expectation heading into this season? Obviously, highly touted first overall pick, exceptional status. Do you feel like you can be an impact right away?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm just gonna work my hardest every practice, every day, every game. Obviously, I do think I can make an impact if I'm playing at my best. I think I could be a help to the team, and obviously, the main goal is to win. So I'm gonna obviously do whatever I can to help the team win.
What do you like best about his overall skill set?
Well, there's nothing I don't like, that's for sure. You know, you talk about a hockey player, you talk about different things like hockey sense and skating ability and, you know, competitiveness, things that are important to all of us. But if I was to pick a skill set, it's pretty obvious when you see him play. Like, he shoots the puck like no other 14-year-old does, I'm sure, in the world. And so, you know, his shot is a big part of the reason why he scores, but he needs teammates to play with him and teammates to, you know, score goals themselves. So it's a combination of those offensive things, but he can really shoot the puck, clearly.
John, going back to when you were awarded the first overall pick, you didn't waste any time letting us know that this was the guy that you were going to draft, and now here presented with the opportunity to sign him before you even call his name. You didn't have to do those things, but why did you, and what does it say about this young guy that you did those things?
Well, clearly we think a lot of him. Clearly he was the number one pick in our eyes and mind. The signing is something that is welcomed by us and welcomed by the league. It's a great move for the Western Hockey League. You know, and as I told you that day who we were taking, that's just because we felt that strongly, and fairly open about it. And to be open about it, probably about a month before that, I met with Connor and his family. We were to hold on to the pick we were taking. So it's no secret. So that's really why.
Great stuff from Connor Bedard, the first overall selection in the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft, the most recent, the latest member of the plenty to be excited about come this fall. And a great thanks to John Paddock as well for giving his insight. We're going to take a short break here, but we've got some important messages on the WHL scholarship from WHL Commissioner.
So I played in the Western Hockey League for 5 years and was fortunate enough to accumulate 5 years of WHL scholarship benefits from that time in the league, and I went on to access those benefits at the University of Alberta. I earned my undergraduate degree, and the biggest thing that I take away in the benefit that I received through the scholarship program was definitely the financial hardship and stress that was taken away from this program. Understanding now what the average student has to go through to graduate, the WHL provides or relieves you of that stress to allow you to succeed in the classroom.
Well, I think players who come to the Western Hockey League obviously are interested in pursuing their hockey careers and going as far in the system as they possibly can, whether that's turning professional or other opportunities that present themselves. But the scholarship program is equally important because it gives the players an opportunity to pursue their academic goals at the same time.
And one thing that we want to stress is education lasts forever, and we're seeing more and more that hockey careers sometimes are shorter than anticipated. So we want to make sure that we provide our current players, but also our graduates, all the opportunity and information that they need to allow for success in life.
The scholarships are fully funded 100% by the WHL clubs. There's obviously a number of different fundraising activities, 50-50s and other things that are taking place, but the commitment is on the ownership of the clubs, and they have been steadfast in their commitment to providing the best academic opportunities, because in addition to the WHL scholarship, players also get academic support while playing. If they wish to pursue post-secondary studies while playing in the league, or other assistance they need, tutoring and so forth, to help with their high school studies, that support is there for them as well.
I think it's the flexibility around our WHL scholarship program that it provides our players. Once they begin accessing their scholarship, they have the flexibility and choice to take any program that they want at any institution that they choose. And seeing firsthand the different programs and the institutions that our players are attending really makes me realize and look back, I didn't understand the full flexibility of the program until you see all these different institutions that our players are attending.
A lot of times focus in the Western Hockey League is on those players who play professionally in the National Hockey League, but we're equally proud of the accomplishments of our graduates who have done so well academically and gone on to very successful business careers. Because at the end of the day, it really is all about success in life, and it's great to have those players get that opportunity.
Great stuff from WHL Commissioner Ron Robison and WHL Vice President of Operations Greg Gardner. Zach, as a player who has been through the Western Hockey, as your WHL scholarship, what can you tell everybody at home about the impact that has had on your life?
It's had a huge impact, but I think the one part people don't understand is how easy it is to access. It is literally an email you get I believe that they send it out in June, and all you do is you fill out a one piece of paper, the office, and it covers all of your university tuition and compulsory fees for the year. For myself, I ended up going to 3 different post-secondary institutions. I went to St. Thomas to play U Sports hockey in the AUS for 1 season, and then I transferred to BCIT, where I got a diploma in radio and media, and then I transferred to Royal Roads University in Victoria, where I got a degree in communications. So it is a very, very versatile scholarship. I like to say it's a scholarship the players earned, and it will go wherever they want to go and whatever career they want to pursue.
We're looking at you today, and you're sitting here putting that communications degree to good use. So, clearly it's had a positive impact, for families and players watching at home. If you've got any questions on the WHL scholarship, plenty of information available for you at WHL.ca. Zach, let's keep moving along here. We're about 16 minutes out from the commencement of the first round of the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft. We've already covered Connor Bedard and the Regina Pats. We've still got plenty of exciting things that we anticipate will happen in the number 2 and number 3 slots of the draft. So, what are you expecting of the top talent that, we're looking at in the next 2 picks here?
Well, I think it's pretty certain to say that the next 2 picks are going to be 2 teammates from Saskatoon, and that's Riley Height and Braden Yeager. We don't know where they're going to go, but we expect that both these 2 players who've been playing together for the past 3 years, they played up a year this year in Midget AAA. You might be wondering why they played up a year. Well, in 62 games, they put up 153 points respectively in the Saskatchewan Bantam AA League. So they needed to increase the competition. They moved up to arguably the most difficult Midget AAA League to play in Western Canada, and I'd argue in the entire country. And they played incredibly well. Both of them had very good seasons, but both of them also continued that development throughout the season. When they got to playoff, over a point a game in the playoffs. So that's what you want to see from these players that are playing up with sometimes 4 years older than what they are. They really excelled and they grew throughout the season, and we expect both those 2 players to go off the board at number 2 and number 3.
The Prince George Cougars hold that number 2 pick. The Moose Jaw Warriors with the number 3 pick. So, you're looking in that central Saskatchewan area, Regina, Moose Jaw, certainly a lot of exciting things to come in that area. And obviously the Prince George Cougars looking to make an impact with the number 2 overall pick. Let's keep rolling here, Zach. Connor Bedard is the top guy out of British Columbia, but I know that you're excited about a number of other top prospects coming out of BC. What do you expect on that front?
BC has another great, as they always do, another great talent pool. They got a lot of very good defensemen. This is going to be a very defense-heavy draft. There are so many good defensemen in this draft available, and 2 of them that we should just mention off the top. They played each other about 9 times this year. 2 very competitive young men from Delta Hockey Academy, and Tanner Molendick from Yale Hockey Academy. Players were up for the Defenseman of the Year award in the Canadian Sports School League. Molendick ended up winning it. Bajrcevic he's a very talented player. He's a power play quarterback. He's a little bit of a riverboat gambler. While Molendick, he's more of your Ryan Murray, calm before the storm. He's the guy that is going to be in those situations when there's 10 seconds left, down 6-on-4, and you need somebody to get the puck down the ice. That's where Tanner's going to come in and be a really key factor for any team that gets him.
Perfect. Well, speaking of impact defensemen, Zach, you had the chance to catch up with Josh Morrissey. He now of the Winnipeg Jets. He spent a little bit of time in BC during his WHL career, winning a WHL championship with the Kelowna Rockets. Let's hear a little bit of that interview from earlier this week.
For those players that are going through the draft right now, what advice would you have for them? Not everybody's going to be a guy like you who goes 6th overall. Some guys are going to go undrafted, and then some guys are going to be 3rd or 4th round picks. But what do you think is the most important piece of advice that you'd have for players who are 14 right now, but want to get to where you are 10 years from now?
If you look at the players in the NHL, you look at the history of the Western Hockey League, at the end of the day, the way I always viewed it was it's an invite to camp. I mean, and that was something that, sure, is it nice to go as high as you can? 100%. Why not? And at that point in time in your life, I mean, I think the thing that I've really, I guess, learned at this point in my career is like, whether it was in Bantam hockey, the draft, or in, junior, trying to get into the lineup consistently, or, get on the power play, or get on the penalty kill, or, any of those things. And the same things go on in the NHL. So, you're trying to, get on the power play, or move up the lineup, or break through from the minor leagues to the NHL or whatnot. So there's always going to be, like, at any given time, that's sort of the most important thing in your career. But, a few weeks later, months later, a year later, it's all relative. So I think, of course, when draft day comes, obviously it's exciting for a lot of guys. But realistically, it's just an opportunity to go to training camp, and, you still have to make the most of it, whether you're a 1st round pick or not drafted at all. And, there's so many great stories of guys being high picks and making the NHL and being phenomenal players. And there's so many stories of guys, that were undrafted and are phenomenal, outstanding NHL players. So it really just, you have to make the most of your opportunity. And, it's like I said, I think it's just an invite to training camp, and you still have to, there's plenty of opportunity down the road.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great stuff from Josh Morrissey of the Winnipeg Jets, and that makes for a nice little transition. He spent time in BC, but he's a Calgary kid. He's an Alberta product. Zach, what are you expecting out of the Alberta crop of the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft?
Oh, yeah. It works out perfect because, Josh, he's from Alberta. He's a defenseman. He was a 1st-round pick in the Western Hockey League, and they're going to have a few of those this year. I think one of the guys that a lot of people have their eyes on is the Lloydminster Bobcats midget AAA team. This is another player who played up a level this season. He put up 12 points this year, which isn't going to blow anybody out of the water, but he was asked to play a defensive role. Last year, Bantam Hockey League, as a 1st-year player, scored 20 goals, added 27 assists. He scored 23 goals, 27 assists for 50 points, adding a defenseman in the Alberta Major Bantam Hockey League. It's very impressive. Also, on defense, another very good player who might slip a little bit in the draft just because the team he was on wasn't as good as what they were last year. But he's actually been featured heavily by the Western Hockey League's communications coordinator, Robert Murray, when he was the sports editor in Fort McMurray. So Austin has had a lot of exposure to the Western Hockey League so far. He's a big defenseman. He moves the puck very well, incredibly consistent, and a guy that is definitely going to step into a Western Hockey League lineup, and by the time he's 18, he's going to be that number 1 defenseman.
Great stuff. So once again, expecting another strong crop out of Alberta. Zach, let's move right along. Saskatchewan. You've already kind of touched on the top 2 that we're expecting to see come out of the land of living skies. Who comes next?
I think that's a former. Well, he's got a brother who's a former Western Hockey League player, and that's Caleb Lind. He played for Swift Current, Bantam. He averaged 2.5 goals a game. In 27 games, he scored a pretty big amount of goals. He added 52 assists for 120 points, but also 90 penalty minutes. So he's a chippy player. He likes to be involved in the game, and quite frankly, I think he has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. He also wanted to play midget AAA this year. The Saskatchewan Hockey Association didn't allow him to do that, so he came back and played Bantam for his 3rd season. And he's a guy that I think is going to be a tremendous player when he gets to the Western Hockey League, much like his older brother was.
All right. Well, we've got one province left, the Keystone Province, the furthest east in Western Hockey League territory. Zach, what can you tell us about the prospect group coming out of Manitoba heading into today?
Manitoba again, kind of a down year for them. It wasn't the best season we've seen from the Winnipeg Bantam AAA League that extends throughout the province of Manitoba, but some really, really high-end forwards coming out. First guy I'd like to talk about is Jaden Perron. He played for the Winnipeg Warriors in the Bantam AAA League there. He had over 100 points in 36 games. He's a natural leader. He's tremendously good in tight with the puck along the walls. He gets off the walls quickly to create off. Second guy set a new league record with 130 points in 36 games, including 74 goals. He's a natural goal scorer. That's Braden Dubé, another smaller forward with that explosive, very quick, uses edges incredibly well, and should transition pretty smoothly.
Perfect. Well, hey, Zach, we appreciate your expertise when it comes to things. Nobody knows it better than you do. You spend a lot of time in the rink, so thanks for that. We're getting close here. We're about 6 minutes out from the start of the first round of the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft. It's a big day for all the players involved. It's a big day for 22 WHL clubs. But Zach, I know you've got some important messages that you want to relay to everybody. Just to kind of keep things in perspective and manage expectations on what can be a high pressure day.
Yeah, it is a big day. It's an exciting day, but it's one day, and that's all it is. And that's the way you need to look at it. It's one day in your evaluation process. You heard what Josh Morrissey said in that clip we heard a little bit earlier. Looking for is an invite to training camp. I think that's really, really important. The draft doesn't determine the type of player you are. You do. You need to continue your development. Don't let other people ever tell you the type of player that you're going to be.
Perfect. Well, thanks for that, Zach. We will be right back after a quick message. We'll be ready for the first round of the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft. Stay tuned.
Foot race. Here comes Krebs the other way. Snaps a shot and he scores.
Yeah, for me it was just an easy choice. I think my brother already signed the Western League, and then my parents' first goal for us kids, and my goal was to get schooling paid for with the Western League and their education fund. That's pretty special, I think. And now the rest is just bonus, trying to make the NHL, and you have that in your back pocket if you want to utilize it.
It's been great. Leaving home at 16 can be difficult, but teams always make sure that you're with a good billet family. I'm very thankful for the opportunity that I got to play in the Western Hockey League.
I just saw the Western Hockey League as the quickest route to the NHL for me. You get in playing at a young age against big, strong guys who help you develop and get ready for the next level, so the WHL definitely was the route for me.
Peyton Krebs, Carter Hart, Dylan Cousins, just a few of the names that have come through the WHL Bantam Draft in years past, and many of which who are already going on to great NHL careers. We are now 4 minutes out from the start of the first round of the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft. We're going to roll right into some welcoming messages, I suppose. Usually we're in a conference hall. Western Hockey League Commissioner Ron Robison has the opportunity to stand up in front of the room, deliver his welcoming message. We don't have that luxury today. He's prepared something for us. I'm going to read it out for you folks at home. So here we are. Welcome from Western Hockey League Commissioner Ron Robison. These are very challenging times for the world and the game of hockey. For the first time in our history, we canceled the balance of our WHL regular season and playoffs, as well as the 2020 Memorial Cup. The health and safety of our prospects, players, parents, fans, team and league personnel will always be the top priority for the WHL, and we certainly hope everyone is staying healthy and staying safe during this unprecedented time. As a further measure to address the COVID-19 pandemic, the WHL is conducting our Bantam Draft entirely online this year. This new format will not take away from the excitement surrounding the event as our prospects and their families wait to see which WHL team they will be selected by in this year's draft. For those prospects not selected in this year's draft, you should not be concerned. Throughout our region remains a top priority for all of our clubs. The NHL's top stars, such as Shea Weber and Jamie Benn, are examples of players who were not selected in the WHL Bantam Draft, but went on to have outstanding WHL and NHL careers. In fact, each season, close to 25% of WHL club consist of players who were not drafted in the WHL Bantam Draft. The WHL is a world leader in player development, combined with offering the most comprehensive program in North America, including a fully guaranteed scholarship. This makes the WHL the best environment for junior age players to develop, both on and off the ice. That is also why the WHL remains the #1 destination for top prospects in the West. We are the leading suppliers to the NHL, Canada's national teams, and Canadian university hockey. Good luck to all of our WHL clubs in this year's WHL Bantam Draft, and to our prospects and your families. We wish you continued success with your development, and we look forward to welcoming you to the Western Hockey League. Thanks to WHL Commissioner Ronson for those welcoming messages. We are approximately 60 seconds out here, so we'll go through a quick review of some hockey operations rules and procedures for the day, courtesy of WHL Vice President of Hockey, Richard Dirksen. First off, each club shall be allowed a maximum of 5 minutes per pick. The WHL will allow additional time if required for a trade to be completed and for all clubs to be notified. Second, a club will be allowed a maximum of 2 additional timeouts during the draft, with the length of each timeout to be 2 minutes. Third, if a technical issue arises, it is possible that a WHL office timeout will be used while the issue is corrected. Fourth, clubs may pass at any time. The WHL Bantam Draft will continue until all clubs have passed. 5, clubs may trade a WHL Bantam Draft selection spot at any time. 6th, and finally, WHL clubs may draft any player who resides in Alberta, BC, Manitoba, Northwest Territories, Saskatchewan, and Yukon, as well as the Western United States. Players eligible for the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft will have been born. That covers off our formal rules and procedures from a hockey operations standpoint. It is 10 a.m. Mountain Time. We are officially underway. The Regina Pats, with the first overall pick, are on the clock here at the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft. So, Zach, we await for that pick to be formally entered into the system. Not to take away any excitement or intrigue, I suppose, but we do already know a little bit about what's going to happen here. And at this point, it is essentially a formality. So, system here, and it appears as though the first pick has been entered. So, it is my pleasure to announce that with the first overall selection in the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft, the Regina Pats select from North Vancouver, BC, of West Van Academy, the Canadian Sports School Hockey League, forward Connor Bedard. Zach, we've talked a little bit about Connor. More of a scouting report can you give us on why Connor is such an exceptional player?
So I said everything he does is exceptional. Here's one thing he does that I don't see very many kids at his age level do. Quite frankly, I don't see any of these kids do it. What he does so well and why he's so effective as an offensive player is his ability to put the puck in the best possible position for him to make an offensive play. He likes to skate the puck up ice. He's a very good skater. He's very good side to side. When he comes in, there's a lot of times where he's coming in one-on-one or one-on-two. And when you're coming in one-on-one or one-on-two, you're going to have to either shoot through or shoot around the defenseman. He's got such quick take a move to put the defenseman in a worse position than he was, puck in a position where he can get either a great shot on net or make a pass to one of his teammates. It's almost like he has eyes on the tape of his blade, seeing exactly what's in front of the puck before he shoots it. It's phenomenal to watch. His development through the year. Last year, when I saw him play for the first time, I thought he was an exceptional player, but I thought there was stuff he could work on. 3 months later, when I saw him play, it was like he knew those areas of his game that he needed to improve, and he'd improved on them. He's the best player in his age group, and he's also one of the most improved every year. Again, he got exceptional status for a reason. He's an exceptional player. He's going to bring a lot to that Regina team. Again, at 15, there's going to be an adjustment period like the Regina Pats and Connor Bedard have a plan to help him continue that, incredible development he's already had up to this point in his career.
So, and with that unprecedented exceptional player status, it's the first time that's ever been granted for a play in the Western Hockey League. That means Connor Bedard at the age of 15 gets to step in right away to that Regina Pats come September 2020 when the puck drops. We know that the Regina Pats, they went all in 2018 when they hosted the Memorial Cup. They've been working through a rebuild. This is the next key piece in that. Zach, where do you see Connor kind of fitting in within that rebuild, and how do you build a core around a player of that caliber?
Well, they've got some good pieces. They've got defenseman, first-round pick Feist, who should be in that lineup next year. He got to play in a couple games this season. They've also got another 16-year-old goalie for next year, Matthew Keeper, who also he got this season. He's a Manitoba kid. He's a really tremendous player. He would have been at WHL Cup this year, but unfortunately he got hurt. So Regina, they have some good pieces. They need to add a couple more, but Connor is expected at 15, not off the bat, but definitely throughout the season to be that he's been, to create offense for a team that doesn't have an easy time right now creating offense. Last year, their leading scorer had under a point a game. In the Western Hockey League, you need to have some guys that are really producing for you offensively and your horses. That's the expectation for Connor. Not next year, but definitely, at 16, 17, which for most players, they're just trying to figure out the Western Hockey League. There's going to be a lot of expectation on him. But again, he seems like the type of player, the type of person that's going to manage those expectations and just keep moving forward like he has his whole life.
So from an overage standpoint, the Regina Pats are going to graduate Captain Austin Pratt. He was their leading scorer last year. Robbie Holmes also on the way out. So from a forward standpoint, certainly opportunity exists for Connor Bedard to step in, play some significant minutes, and be a real impact in the East Division. We're waiting here for the second overall pick. For you at home, the Prince George Cougars are on the clock. They've got the second overall pick now. So we'll wait to see, and we eagerly anticipate what that pick or how that pick is going to turn out, Zach. We already kind of touched on Braden Yeager and Riley Height, who are the two key guys that we're expecting to see in this 2-3 mix. And it looks like we've got a pick entered here. So with the second overall pick in the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft, the Prince George Cougars select from Dundurn, Saskatchewan, of the Saskatoon Contacts, forward Riley Height. Zach, talked a little bit about Riley already, but what can Prince George Cougars fans expect of the second overall pick?
An explosive offensive forward. He's a guy that when he's on the ice and he has the puck, it doesn't matter if he's in his own end or in the offensive end, he's going to be able to create that offense. In his own end, he breaks out quick. When he gets the puck along the half wall, when he gets the puck in the middle of the ice, his feet are moving, he's up ice already. He pushes defensemen back, but he's patient enough to not take the bad shot. He'll push the defenseman back. He'll see an opportunity to cut to the middle. He'll take it. He'll push the defenseman back. He'll see an opportunity to stop up, bring a couple guys in, and then hit the backdoor player. He can score. He can play in all areas of the game. He's a very good player that's going to come into a Prince George team that has a pretty stocked cupboard already. They're doing very well. They had 2 first-round picks last year. They've got 3 this year. They're a team that is also in that retooling phase, and they've got some very good prospects, and adding mix is very positive for the Prince George Cougars.
You talk about the 2019 WHL Bantam Draft class for the Cougars, and Keaton Dohaniuk is somebody that stood out to me coming out of that. What are you excited about from that group, knowing that those players are going to step in immediately this year? Meanwhile, Riley Height obviously has to wait another year before he can play full-time with the Prince George.
I think it's great. You get that culture started with those young players, because it's not just Dohaniuk. It's going to be Cohen Ziemer, who was the 3rd overall pick, Dohaniuk, who was the 4th overall pick, and then also Kyron Gronick, who played for Team Saskatchewan at the WHL Cup. He was an incredibly important player for Team Saskatchewan at the WHL Cup this year. Every single shift, he brought it with the competitiveness, with the intensity that they needed to help them win their first ever championship. And he's going to bring that to the Western Hockey League as well. So, 3 16-year-olds on a team, it's not unprecedented, but I think Prince George is going to have 3 really good 16-year-olds that for when Riley Heidt gets there at 17 are going to be able to be those school captains and help him along the path and get into that culture that they're creating up there.
From where I'm sitting, I look at the Prince George Cougars. They've got a quality goaltender in Taylor Gauthier, kind of solidifying things from the blue paint. From an overage standpoint, they're going to graduate Josh Macer here. He was their leading scorer this past season. Ryan Shetler has been a mainstay on the blue line for what seems like a very long time. He's on his way out as well. And then import forward Vladislav Mihalchuk, who came back mid-season and had a major offensive impact. So there's certainly opportunity for those 16-year-olds this coming season to step in and, again, take on some of those key minutes. But Zach, we were talking in the lead up to the draft about the number of picks that the Prince George Cougars have early on in the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft. How exciting is that if you're a director of scouting, manager Mark Lamb, and you're looking at the wealth of talent that we expect to see in this draft? I mean, you got to like what you see.
Yeah, they've been excited all year, and they've been putting in the work though too. Bob Simmons and his scouting staff, they've been at the rinks all year watching these players, making sure that they know, even though we didn't get to go to the branch camps this year in Manitoba, BC, and Alberta, who they want and who that they think is going to best fit into the culture that they're building in Prince George. They have 4 picks in the top 30. They should be able to get 4 really quality players that can help you build a team for the future. So I'm excited to see what Prince George does. Again, they got 2 late picks in the first round and then a pretty early pick in the second round as well. So they've got a lot of work to do today, but work and again, hopefully 4 really good impact players for that team in the future.
Absolutely. Positive steps being taken by the Prince George Cougars here as they look to build that new core moving forward. We are looking at the 3rd overall pick now. The Moose Jaw Warriors hold that selection. And it looks as though that pick has now been entered. So with the 3rd overall pick in the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft, the Moose Jaw Warriors select from Dundurn, Saskatchewan, the Saskatoon Contacts, forward Braden Yeager. Zach, again, we've talked about Braden off the top in the pre-show, but what more can you tell us to expand upon how much of an impact player you expect him to be in the Western Hockey League for the Moose Jaw Warriors?
Well, he does the 3 S's really well: speed, skill, and smarts. He's an incredibly fast player. He's an incredibly smart player. I watched the clip last night preparing for this. It's on the penalty kill, 5-on-4. He comes out to the point with his stick in the defenseman's strong hand passing lane, forcing him to go to his backhand. The second he sees the defenseman make that move, he gets his stick in the lane, blocks the pass, goes down, scores a very beautiful breakaway goal. Those are the 3 S's in motion right there. Speed, he was able to think the game quickly. He was able, once he had the puck, to get moving quickly. Skill, once he was down ice, he made an incredibly quick move on the goalie and scored a very nice goal. And then smarts. You need to be smart to be able to make a play like that. And Braden Yeager brings all 3 of those elements together. And he's a great player for the Moose Jaw Warriors and a great pick at number 3 overall.
So General Manager Alan Miller, Director of Scouting Jason Ripplinger, they've got to be happy with what they're getting here at number 3. A bit of a tough season for the Moose Jaw Warriors this past year, but they're returning guys like Ryder Korzak. They're returning a defenseman like Damon Hunt. Guys who are on the Central Scout. Well, Damon Hunt, who is on the Central Scouting radar for the NHL this year. Ryder Korzak, not eligible until the 2021 NHL draft, but certainly emerged this past season. So there are a lot of good pieces mixed in there in Moose Jaw. And, Yeager, a year down the line, is really going to elevate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Korzak took a huge jump this year, going from the Calgary Hitmen, who I think did a tremendous job developing him for the Moose Jaw Warriors. And then the Warriors, once he got there, he just exploded in that system. He was asked to do a lot more. He took on a lot more responsibility at 17 years old. He was an assistant captain, their leading scorer. His brother, John, who's a 2nd-round pick of the Golden Knights, I believe. So obviously good bloodlines in that family. And for Korzak and the Moose Jaw Warriors, they want to be a better team than what they were this year. They lost a lot of guys. Obviously, it's been a team that's been very strong in the Western League for many years now. And again, they're retooling. It's because they're coming off of a tremendous run. But, I mean, if you can get a player like Braden in your system this quickly, that's great for everybody.
It's just natural cycle of junior hockey, and it's one of the most difficult things to avoid. There are peaks and there are valleys, and most teams go through. Very few that are able to avoid that year to year. The Moose Jaw Warriors certainly have been very competitive within the East Division for a very long time here, so we expect to see them return to that in the near future, and Braden Yeager will definitely be a big part of that. We're looking at graduating overagers for the Moose Jaw Warriors. Owen Hardy, a big leader with that club, he's going to move on. Chase Harchie, again, a veteran presence on the blue line, and same with Carson Sass. So they do lose a little bit in terms of that veteran presence, but we expect someone like Damon to step in. He battled with some injuries this year, ranked 25th by NHL Central Scouting, and he will very likely take on a much bigger role following, I guess, the off season here when we start 2020-21. We've got the Tri-City Americans on the clock here. They've got the 4th overall selection in the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft, and it looks as though that pick has been entered. With the 4th overall pick in the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft, the Tri-City Americans select from Richmond, British Columbia, of the Delta Hockey Academy, defenseman Lucas Dragicevic. Zach, we talked a little bit about Lucas off the top. What more can you tell us, and what more can you tell Tri-City Americans fans to get them hyped about this round pick?
Well, they got a power play quarterback, and they got a potential #1 defenseman. Lucas, he likes to move the puck up ice. He likes to play on offense. He likes to play. He's the type of player that's going to come in at 16, and there's going to be a learning Western Hockey Leagues for. It's about developing the players from the systems from minor hockey into the Western Hockey League so that they can move on to pro. No defenseman that comes into the Western League, except for maybe Morgan Riley, is going to come in and just be a superstar right off the top. But Lucas can come in and be a very productive player as old, potentially running the first unit power play. He has tremendous poise at the point with the puck, and he's very smart. He doesn't always shoot the puck 100 miles an hour. Sometimes he sees it's better for him to float it in to get a deflection. Sometimes he's going for the pad pass. He's a smart player with the puck, and he's a physical player away from the puck. He also has Western Hockey League bloodlines. His father, Milan, who coaches him at the Hockey Academy, also played in the Western Hockey League. Milan's also been a head coach of UBC men's hockey team. So he's been coached very well his entire life, and that's going to continue with the Tri-City Americans and Bob Torrey's team that they're putting together down there.
Bob Torrey, Roy Stasiak, they've got what they're getting here at the number 4th overall pick. I got a guy over my shoulder here that came through Tri-City. He's done pretty well for himself so far. Michael Rasmussen now with the Detroit Red Wings of the NHL. We're moving right along here in the first round. We're looking ahead to the 5th overall pick, and holding that selection, the Saskatoon Blades. Now, they come to that pick courtesy of the Regina Pats. Saskatoon is in a bit of an interesting spot. I think a lot of people anticipated that Kirby Dach might have been back last season. That obviously didn't happen. He graduated straight to the NHL with the Chicago Blackhawks. And, I think that maybe had a bit of an impact on how their season went. But this is still a Blades club that is in really good shape moving forward, Zach.
Yeah, they're a good team. They're a very good team. And they have some young players that are going to be 18 next year that were very good this year for them. I look at Kyle Krnovic, what he did this year for the Saskatoon Blades at a 17-year-old. It was incredible, his production this season. On the back end, they've got Aiden de la Gournière. I'm sorry for mispronouncing your name, but you got too many letters in it. He took a big jump this year. He had over 30 points as a 17-year-old in the Western Hockey League. And again, these are guys that are expected to play not just on offense, but they need to play on defense as well. They're learning the game.
Zach, I'm going to jump in and cut you off there. It looks like we've got that pick entered. So with the 5th overall selection in the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft, the Saskatoon Blades select from Kamloops, British Columbia, of the Yale Hockey Academy, defenseman Tanner Molendyke. Zach, again, this is one of the guys we touched on when you were talking a little bit about that strong group coming out of BC. What can you tell us about Tanner, another defenseman who eventually will join the likes of Aiden Delagorgentier, who you were just talking about?
He is a very fluid, smooth skating defenseman. He avoids contact by getting the puck, by moving his feet. He's durable. He was the captain of his team this season, and he's incredibly talented. He can knock that stretch pass up ice, but he also consistently breakout pass, which is so important when you're playing in the Western Hockey League. You need to keep the puck moving north. When you start going east-west, that's when trouble starts to happen. He's a guy that can create offensively for you, whether he's playing Saskatoon, taking the Morgan Riley Toronto Maple Leafs approach with him, where he's not going to be playing first minute power play. Maybe at 16. He might get that opportunity at 17. They're going to teach him how to play defense in the Western Hockey League, let him develop his confidence, and then let him explode his 17, 18, 19-year-old years in the Western Hockey League.
Graduating overagers in Saskatoon, a couple key impact defensemen. So this pick absolutely makes sense when you look at that. Scott Walford, he moves on. I think was quietly a very hockey league the past two seasons, particularly with the Blades this past year. And then Nolan Neen as well, moving on as an overager on the blue line. So, a couple key spots to fill there for the Blades moving forward. So that pick of the defenseman Tanner Molendyk definitely makes sense from a long-term perspective. We're waiting now on the 6th overall pick. That pick lies in the hands of the Red Deer Rebels. So they're on the clock at this point. We're waiting for that pick to be entered here. But, General Manager Brent Sutter, he's the old cowboy at the table. He's been around the Western Hockey League. And, I know it was an unconventional or an uncharacteristic down year for the Rebels, Zach, but for them to look forward to here with the 6th overall selection. And it looks as though we've got that pick entered here. So with the 6th overall pick in the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft, the Red Deer Rebels select from Swift Current, Saskatchewan, of the Swift Current Broncos Bantam AAA program, forward Kalen Lind. Again, Zach, this is somebody that you mentioned off the top. I think your expertise is really coming through here. But, what can fans of the Red Deer Rebels in Central Alberta expect of Kalen Lind down the road?
An incredibly offensive, competitive player. Again, 2.5 goals a game this year in the Saskatchewan Bantam AA League. He also played several games with the Swift Current Leaders, which is in the Midget AAA League in Saskatchewan there. His brother played in the Western Hockey League. He's currently in the Vancouver Canucks system. Kalen scores goals at will right now. He's going to be challenged a lot more next year to continue that production. But when you talk about the Red Deer Rebels and what they're getting, they got Grayson Stock this year in the U.S. Prospects Draft. They have Kalen Lind. And then last year they picked up two very good defensemen in the second round in Jace Weir and Hunter Mayo. They have a very strong group of young players to join the youngest team in the Western Hockey League this year, which was the Red Deer Rebels. Kalen is going to come in at 16. He could be a Cole Sillinger. He plays that same style of hockey. Incredibly, he's not afraid to shy away from that compete, from that grit that does happen in the Western League. And Red Deer expects him to come in and learn that system as well. They got a great coach there in Brent Sutter, and they got a great young core to help them build that culture. Same thing with Prince George. You're trying to build a culture that hasn't or was there and you want to get back to. That's the same thing they're trying to do in Red Deer, and they've got a great young group to do that.
You talk about that core. A big piece of that is import defenseman Christopher Sedoff. He comes from overseas this past year. A mobile, puck-moving guy that can play at both ends of the rink. He had a real impact. He's on the NHL Central Scouting list for the 2020 NHL Draft. They've got him ranked at 63rd among North American skaters. So, that's a nice piece that I certainly had my eyes on this past year. We saw him play at the Kubota CHL NHL Top Prospects game in Hamilton in January. And, he'll certainly be a key piece of things as the Rebels build moving forward. Moving right along here, we're up to the 7th overall pick in the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft. Seattle Thunderbirds are on the clock with that selection, so we'll await to see what General Manager Bill LaForge decides upon with his esteemed scouting group. But it looks as though that pick has now been entered by Seattle. So with the 7th overall selection in the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft, the Seattle Thunderbirds select from Regina, Saskatchewan, of the Regina Monarchs Bantam AA program, forward Sam Aremba. Now, Zach, you've talked about the strong group that's coming out of Saskatchewan. What can you tell us about Sam Aremba and how he's going to impact upon the Seattle Thunderbirds?
Well, we talked about how Kalen Lynn tore up the Bantam AA League, and so did Sam. He scored 133 points in the regular season. He's a big, very hitting forward who likes to drive the net, but he's not a one-dimensional player. What I mean by that is he likes to use his size against defensemen to take the puck to the net to create offense. But he doesn't do that every single time. When he sees an opportunity, when he's driving to cut back and get a better opportunity to get a shot on net, he does that. So he might go 3 or 4 times, drive the net, drive the net, drive the net. He lulls the defenseman into thinking that's what he's going to do again. And then on that 5th time, he stops up, puts on the brakes, does a quick little toe drag, and he has a tremendous shot, and he puts it on net. He's a very good player. He was the captain of his team this year. He's also a competitive guy. And this is the 4th Saskatchewan player we've seen off the board already in this draft in 7 picks. So Saskatchewan's having a very good start to the Western League draft this year.
So a good get for general manager Bill LaForge and his director of scouting, Cal Filson, in Seattle. Again, as we see every year, and this is status quo across the board, the Western Hockey League and clubs are driven by their quality 19 and 20-year-olds. So another group of quality overagers will be graduating from Seattle. Andre Kakucha led the team in scoring this past year. Connor Bruggencate played a significant leadership role as their captain in Seattle, and then Max Patterson, who won a WHL championship with the Broncos, the Swift Current Broncos, in 2018. He moves on as well. So another piece of valuable experience moving on there. But good things to come in Seattle. I think we saw a taste of it down the stretch as they really pressed towards the playoffs. We're awaiting the 8th overall selection here. The Kelowna Rockets are on the clock with that. And it looks as though that pick has now been entered. We're moving along at a great rate here. So with overall pick in the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft, the Kelowna Rockets select from Burnaby, British Columbia, of St. George Bantam Prep, forward Andrew Zach. A tough year for the Kelowna Rockets, and obviously it didn't end the way they wanted it to when we consider that they were set to host the Memorial Cup, and that obviously didn't come to fruition given the pandemic we're dealing with. But some excitement now with a 1st-round pick, forward Andrew Crystal. What can you tell us about him?
Well, Kelowna really likes the St. George program. They drafted Wong from there a few years ago, and now they got Crystal. He's a player who does everything well. What he is he's sneaky good. He had 43 goals in 27 games this year, and you watch him play, and you go, oh, that kid's pretty good. And then out of nowhere, he steals a puck from a defenseman, goes in, makes a tremendous move one-on-one with the goalie, and scores. At the John Reed tournament this January, he led that St. George's team on a run where he pretty much put the team on his back the whole way. He scored several beautiful goals in that tournament. He plays not only strong offensively, but he plays just as hard defensively. He's a center. He plays, 20, 25 minutes a night. Hopefully in the Western Hockey League soon here. Kelowna is going to need him to do that. Young, he's a smart player. He was the captain of his team. He's a guy that's going to transition into that Kelowna rebuild is what they're going to be going years. They didn't have a 1st-round pick last year. Their top pick was Nolan Flaman, 2nd round, and then Jaden Jolie, 3rd round. So they got to retool the cupboard a little bit, but they've got a great start here with Crystal.
And that's to be expected. We saw it with the Regina Pats, talked about that a little bit earlier. They've gone through that process, or they're in the middle of going through that process following hosting the Memorial Cup in 2018. So nothing out of the ordinary in that regard. Director of scouting Lauren Fry, he's been around forever. He's been a mainstay. And, yesterday it was announced that he's going to be moving into a little bit of a different role. So I guess safe to say that this is the last 1st round selection, barring any trade movement, that Lauren will be a part of as the director of scouting for the Kelowna Rockets.
Yeah, Lauren's made some pretty good picks there too in his time in Kelowna. So I think it's a good sign if he's making this one.
All right. Well, we're continuing to move right along here. We've got the 9th overall selection up next. The Victoria Royals hold that pick. We'll await to see what they do. But certainly an exciting year in Victoria as they made a real strong push through the regular season, and unfortunately just didn't get the opportunity to show what they had in the playoffs given the circumstance. But it looks as though the Royals have entered their pick. So with the 9th overall selection in the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft, the Victoria Royals select from Fort McMurray, Alberta, of OHA Bantam Prep defenseman Austin Zemlak. Zach, we talked about Alberta. This is another one of your guys, Austin Zemlak. What more can you tell fans in Victoria about their newest member of the Royals?
When I watch Austin Zemlak play, he is just a very, very good defenseman. He can play offense incredibly well, but what he does on the back end, he slows the game down. He doesn't jump out of position. He knows what he needs to do. He's physical when he needs to be physical. He uses the stick when he needs to use the stick. When he gets the puck in the D zone, he moves his feet, head up. He either makes that first pass, or if he needs to, he'll skate it out. He is another one of these top-end defensemen that's in this draft that when they get to the Western Hockey League, their potential is unlimited. Again, one of our colleagues, Rob Murray's been watching him since he was about 9 years old, so he knows all about him. We've got an extensive scouting report on Austin, but he's a very good player. For the Victoria Royals, he's going to slot in nicely. You got Nolan Bentham, who will be an 18-year-old player when he can be 16, and that is a great mentor for him as he comes into the Western League as a 16-year-old defenseman. It's a tough job to do, but he is more than ready to do it.
An overage hole opening up on the blue line as well. Defenseman Will Warm, who was a major impact player and a leader for the Victoria Royals, he moves on at the conclusion of this season. So it opens up opportunity down the line for Bentham and Zemlak, as you've mentioned. We'll move right along here. The 10th overall pick is next up, and we stay in the BC division. The Vancouver Giants hold the 10th overall pick, former club of yours, Zach. So we'll await to see what General Manager Barclay Parnetta has in store for us there. But the Vancouver Giants, we're talking about a team that came on real strong down the stretch run in the second half of the season and made a real good push to try and get back in that BC division title race. And ultimately, like all clubs, we're looking at their season was cut short. So disappointment, I'm sure, in that regard, as the Giants were posed to make a real strong press down the stretch run.
Yeah, with that being said, though, Taylor, as much as they wanted that BC title, I think what was boding so well for them was they were really coming together going into the playoffs. It was a team that went to the Game 7 final last year, overtime. They unfortunately lost on a goal scored by North Delta BC product Dante Hanoun. But they were looking like a team in that second half of the season, once Bowen came back from the World Juniors, that was on a run. They looked like they were on a mission.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to cut you off there, Zach, because we've got the pick entered with the 10th overall selection in the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft. The Vancouver Giants select from Lloydminster, Alberta, the Lloydminster Bobcats Midget AAA program, defenseman Masden Leslie. Zach, another defenseman out of Alberta, off the board. Masden Leslie is headed to the Vancouver Giants. What can you tell us?
Big, physical, good skating, all-around defenseman. He played up a year this year, Midget AAA. The reason he did that, as a first-year player in the Alberta Bantam Hockey League, he scored 23 goals, which is pretty unprecedented for a player in that league. Now, this year in the Midget AAA League, he didn't put up the same offensive production, but he was asked to play a more defensive role. He can skate the puck out of the zone end, hard shot from the point. He's got a quick release and he's got good vision. He's probably the most physical defenseman off the board so far. For the Vancouver Giants, they need these prospects to come in. They didn't have a first-round pick last year, 2 second-round picks, but Leslie, guy to have, who's going to be able to play again at 16. Be an impact player at 16. He could be. He's one of these guys that can come in. I played with a young guy too named David Musil that was a pretty impact player at 16, and Leslie can fill that role as well. He can eat up minutes on the PK. He can play a second-minute power play, and he's a guy who you're not afraid of in his own end because he's very good there.
We continue to hum along here. Sounds like the Giants have a good one in Mazd and Leslie. On the clock with the 11th overall pick, the Medicine Hat Tigers. Now, this is a pick that came to Medicine Hat courtesy of the Saskatoon Blades, so a little bit of shuffling of the deck in that regard. But the Medicine Hat Tigers now on the clock at 11. General manager and head coach Willie Desjardins is back at the table. Zach, I know you spent some time in Medicine Hat and you loved your time there. How much fun is it being a part of the Tigers organization?
I absolutely, Taylor, you said I've been a part of two teams. You could pretty much say I've been part of about half the teams in the Western Hockey League at this point. But Medicine Hat was a tremendous place for me. I was there the second half of my 19-year-old year and then the beginning of my 20-year-old season. And I, the way the ownership and the staff treat the players and the city really embraces the team, it was truly the junior hockey experience. And I was very, very fortunate to get to play in Medicine Hat, and I have a lot of great friends and a lot of great memories from there.
Perfect timing. We have that 11th overall pick now entered into the system. So with the 11th overall selection in the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft, the Medicine Hat Tigers select from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, of the Saskatoon Generals Bantam AAA program, defenseman Reed Anderson. We've got another defenseman off the board, Zach. What can you tell us about Reed Anderson, who joins the Medicine Hat Tigers from Saskatoon?
I think he's a player that's really going to fit into that system well that Willie likes to play in the Western League. It's a speed, skill, north-south game, and Reed fits that profile exactly. He had over 50 points this year in the Saskatchewan Bantam AA League. He's an incredibly offensive defenseman. He likes to use head up ice quickly. From the point, he's a guy that's very shifty. He likes to make moves. He's moving his body. He's getting pucks through when there's traffic. He's another guy that when he gets to the Western League, he's going to, have an adjustment period where there's going to be that learning from minor to the Western League as a defenseman. There's a bigger adjustment period for defensemen than there are for forwards. But he's a very smart player. He should be able to progress quickly through that 16-year-old season with the Medicine Hat Tigers. This is another team with a lot of prospects in the system, but they have a lot of offensive prospects. So bringing in a guy like Reed in the first round is huge for Medicine Hat as they continue a great season this year. And with the prospects they have coming in and the players they have staying from this season's roster, they're going to be a good team for many more years to come here.
A couple key overage defensemen graduating. So again, as we've talked about with some of these other clubs, opportunity opens up. Dylan Plouffe, he moves along. He was a strong veteran. Parker Gavlis, he is graduated as a 20-year-old as well. And, somebody whose name will be familiar to fans around the Western Hockey League is Drew Krebs. He was a second-round pick of the Tigers, and as a defenseman, is looking to step in and fill some of that. And, 1 year down the line, Reed Anderson will be a big part of that as well. Again, this draft, as far as I'm concerned, is moving along at a real good pace. We're looking at the 12th overall pick now. The Calgary Hitmen are on the clock, and they waste no time at all. That pick has been entered, so we'll go straight into it. With the 12th overall selection in the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft, the Calgary Hitmen select from Gibbons, British Columbia, of Delta Hockey Academy, forward Oliver Tulk. So Zach, Oliver Tulk is the latest to hear his name called by the Calgary Hitmen. What can you tell us about Oliver?
Fun player to watch. Incredibly skilled, two-way center. Oliver has tremendous hands, but he's also a very sneaky shooter. He's kind of got the same type of shot that Leon Draisaitl has when he played in the Western Hockey League, which wasn't any shot that was going to blow you away by any measure, but was incredibly accurate, was quick, and it throws the goalies off. Leon uses a big blade. Tulk uses a similar blade to the one Leon likes to use, but he plays at both ends of the ice. like really plays at both ends of the ice. He makes sure he takes care of his own zone, and then he gets up on offense. When he sees the opportunity to make something happen, he likes to do that. When he comes into the zone, he's not going to drive the net and beat a guy wide. He's going to bring those defensemen into him, beat him with his hands, or draw them to a place where he can hit that trailing defenseman. Incredibly skilled, very, very good player from, not really a hockey hotspot, which would be Gibson's, BC. So it's nice to see those Sunshine Coast players from BC make the transition into the Western Hockey League for sure.
Pretty high praise if you're having any aspect of your game compared to Leon Draisaitl. So, Oliver Tulk, he's the latest to go in the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft, 12th overall to the Calgary Hitmen. We're moving right along here at 13. The Brandon Wheat Kings are now on the clock. They have the 13th overall pick coming up. General Manager Darren Ritchie, what are you anticipating for the Wheat Kings? What maybe makes sense for them here with the 13th overall selection in terms of a need that they might need to address?
Well, they took 3 forwards with 3 first-round picks last year, so I would expect to see either a defenseman or maybe the outside possibility of a goaltender being selected here. Those players last year, Nate Danielson, 6th overall, tore up the midget prep division in the Canadian Sports School Hockey League this season. Rylan Roersma, who went later 18th, he had a very good season with the Lethbridge Midget AAA team, and Tyson Zimmer. Zimmer's the one Manitoba kid in those 3, and all 3 of them are looking to make that team next year. Is there going to be spots for all 3 of them? And Brett Hyland, who was a second-round pick in 2018, was also the captain of his team in the Alberta Midget AAA League, the CAC Canadians. He had a very good year. He represented Team Alberta at the Winter Games last season. It'll be seen. It's going to be great because there's going to be competition at training camp this season.
Zach, you've clearly done your homework. We've got the 13th overall pick now entered into the system. So with the 13th overall selection in the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft, the Brandon Wheat Kings select from Weyburn, Saskatchewan, of the Weyburn Red Wings Bantam AA program, defenseman Quinn Mante. Zach, another Saskatchewan player off the board here. Quinn Mante heads east to the Brandon Wheat Kings. You talked about them needing a defenseman. What does Mante bring to the table?
Well, he reminds me a lot of another Weyburn defenseman who was a pretty high pick in this draft. That's Derek Pouliot. With his ability to play the offensive side of the game so well, but also he maintains his back end maybe a little bit better than Derek did when he was in Bantam. With that being said, they're getting a player that is going to be coachable. He played in Weyburn this season. He's going to be tested again next year in the Saskatchewan Midget AAA League. He's an offensive defenseman. He's coming into a program that has had success developers. You look at the guys that have been through there. Mark Stone, Pouliot, right now, Ridley Grieg and Braden Schneider. There's going to be players there that can help him continue to develop how he thinks the game and how he plays the game. I think for him going to training camp this year with what we just said about how competitive it's going to be in Brandon, that's a real eye-opening experience to see what it's like at the next level. Because when you make that step from Bantam AAA hockey to Western Hockey League main camp, it is a huge difference in the level of compete and the level of skill and the level that you're expected to bring each and every day. So for Manti, great opportunity for him going to Brandon. There is opportunity for him there when he gets to the team at 16, and I think it's a really good pick.
13th overall, Quinn Manti is the latest member of the Brandon Wheat Kings. We stay in Manitoba. 14th overall selection, the Winnipeg Ice are now on the clock with that pick. So we'll be very curious to see what happens with the Winnipeg Ice. They obviously made a big splash at the 2019 WHL Bantam Draft. They take Matthew Savoy with the first overall pick and then shuffle around a few different pieces in order to bring in the second overall pick, which allowed them the opportunity to take a Manitoba-grown player in Connor Geekie. So big things for the Winnipeg Ice in 2019. We'll see what they do here in 2020 with the 14th overall pick. But, Manitoba, when you're looking at it from a Western Hockey League perspective, Zach, there's a lot of excitement happening in the province of Manitoba when it comes to those 2 WHL clubs.
Yeah, look at the 16-year-olds that are going to be in that in just those two cities next year, you got Matt Savoy, who already played 20-something games this year. He was the captain of Team Canada at the Youth Olympics. You've got Geeky, who led Team Manitoba to a silver medal at this year's WHL Cup, was an absolute beast, dominated the tail end of that tournament here in Midget AAA. So for the Winnipeg Ice, for Matt Cockle and Jake Hosinger, got a very good group of prospects coming into that team to help supplement the Peyton Krebs, the Connor McClellans. Next year, potential top 5 pick, Carson Lambos. So they have developed a very good culture with that group they have, and it's good that they're bringing players into it now.
You've got the 14th overall selection from the Winnipeg Ice in the system now. So with 14th overall pick in the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft, the Winnipeg Ice select from Chilliwack, British Columbia, of Yale Hockey Academy, forward Zach Benson. Zach Hodder, we've got another forward to add to a wealth of offensive weapons in Winnipeg. What can you tell us about Zach Benson?
Well, he's got the best first name in the draft so far, from what I've seen. But what Zach does, he's a smaller player. He played in the Bantam Prep program last year. He's so patient and so smart with the puck. Sometimes it's like he's playing against kids. Really, really. He won the MVP of the Bantam Prep division this year in this Canadian Sports School Hockey League. He can score. He can pass. He can win faceoffs. He is very, very smart. And he's a guy that, even though with, again, being a little bit undersized, he doesn't get hit because he is so much smarter than the players he's playing against. I think this is a tremendous pick for the Winnipeg Ice, bringing in another high-skilled, very smart forward into that program.
So forward Zach Benson goes 14th overall to the Winnipeg Ice. The Prince Albert Raiders, staying in the East Division, are now the 15th overall pick. And, this is a team that is 1 year removed from a Western Hockey League championship. They finished or abbreviated 2019-20 regular season atop the East Division. So a strong Raiders team here. They've got the 15th overall pick, and they're on the clock. So, for general manager Curtis Hunt, Zach, what do you think is a need that the Raiders need to address here?
Well, what the Raiders have done in the past couple of years is build a very good team through the draft, through trades, and through free agent listings, and not giving up prospects and picks in the process. They went to the Western Hockey League final last year. They won it, returned a team that, again, looks like they were going to win the East Division. They have very good 17-year-olds in Ozzy Weisblatt and Caden Gooley, and they've got a good young 16-year-old in Niall Crocker who's coming in next year. For Prince Albert, it's just keep finding players like they have that are going to come in and have an impact on your team and grow with that team. Curtis talks about that he wants to have players come in and learn from the older players. Well, they've got that culture built now. They've got their second generation of players who are going to be 18 next year, and now they've started to get this third generation of players to continue the Raider way that they've developed there.
I'm going to cut you off because we've got the 15th overall pick into the system. With the 15th overall selection in the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft, the Prince Albert Raiders select from Fort St. James, British Columbia, of the Delta Hockey Academy, defenseman Terrell Goldsmith. Terrell Goldsmith, Zach, he is the latest to join the Prince Albert Raiders at 15 overall. Can you tell us about Terrell?
The first time I saw Terrell shoot, my jaw dropped. He has, in this draft, his one-timer is, if I was a goalie in Bantam, I would just get out of the net if I was them. It was incredible to watch. He is a very physical defenseman. He's a big guy. He plays a very tough style of hockey. He's going to be a guy that comes in and that Raider defense. When I was in Prince Albert, another team I played for, we had a guy named Dave Manson there. Reminds me a lot of Dave Manson with the way he plays. With that being said, I don't think Dave gets the respect he does on how good his skating actually is, but Terrell has pretty decent footwork for a big guy. He's going to need to continue to develop that, especially in the Western Hockey League with how fast and how skilled these guys are. But again, at 16, He can play minutes. He can play on your PK. He can come in on that second line power play. He can play in his own end. So when you have trust in these young players, that helps give them confidence to continue that development, which we talk about. I know we keep talking about the same thing, but with Terrell, he's a guy that's going to have that opportunity to develop explosively once he gets to the Western Hockey League.
Terrell Goldsmith, the latest off the board. He goes 15th overall to the Prince Albert Raiders. The Lethbridge Hurricanes are now on the clock with the 16th overall pick, Zach. So General Manager Peter Anholt, he is now at the table on behalf of the Lethbridge Hurricanes. We'll be curious to see what happens for them in this spot. And once again, pick entered very quickly here, so we'll actually move right into that. With the 16th overall selection in the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft, select of the Edmonton KC Squires Bantam AAA program, forward Cole Miller. So Cole Miller is the latest to join the Lethbridge Hurricanes. Zach, what do you know about Cole Miller and what he brings to the table?
I didn't get to see too much of Cole Miller this year, but from what I did see, he's a player. He's a good offensive player that was on a very weak team this season. With in the Alberta Major Bantam Hockey League. He's the first player to be selected from the Alberta Major Bantam Hockey League in this year's draft. And he's a guy that is going to need to come in and learn from the older players on that team. He's going to have a tremendous opportunity now to get to go to training camp with Dylan Cousins and Kalen Addison, who will Cousins will be there for sure. Addison might be there. Addison's obviously graduating. He signed as a 19-year-old. Will likely be playing in the AHL next season. Well, Cousins does have the opportunity to come back. So for Miller, for him going from minor hockey into that Western League training camp, he needs to soak in as much as he can from Peter Anholt, from that staff, and take it back to whichever team he chooses to play on next year. For the Lethbridge Hurricanes, good player to start to bring in to restock that cupboard. We talk about teams who have kind of gone on some runs and then they're on the tail end of that. Well, Lethbridge went on a couple runs, but they still managed to have a very, very good team this year that had an opportunity to compete for the Eastern Conference title and potentially winning the Western Hockey League this season. With that being said, they do need to bring in a few more players, and this is a great start to that restocking of the talent they have in their prospect system.
So forward Cole Miller, he's the latest off the board here in the first round of the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft, going 16th overall to the Lethbridge Hurricanes. We're getting to the tail end of the first round here, and we're back to a team that had the second overall selection. It's the Prince George Cougars on the clock once again. They have the 17th overall pick. And, Zach, we already saw Prince George take Riley Height second overall. They've got another opportunity to add another impact player here at 17. And it looks like we have that pick entered into the system. So with the 17th overall selection in the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft, the Prince George Cougars select from Fort St. John, British Columbia, of Delta Hockey Academy, forward Caden Brown. Zach, Caden Brown, another guy from Delta Hockey Academy. We've heard that program come up a few times here in the first round. What can you tell us about Caden Brown?
Well, he's the captain of his team this year. He also played on that Bantam Prep team last year as well. He's a leader, and he brings it every shift. He can play the gritty game as a third or fourth line player, and he can play the skill game as a first or second line player. He really is a jack of all trades and a true leader on the ice. When I watch him play, he's blocking shots. He's giving it all every single shift. He can score on the power play. He can be your power play quarterback. With him and Dragisevich on that power play this year, they were lethal, working off of each other. For Caden Brown going into the Prince George Cougars lineup, he fits in perfectly. He's a potential captain in a few years, just like he was in Delta Hockey Academy. That's the type of players you're looking for, and I think they did a great job identifying Caden as a type of guy that can come in and be a very strong and important part of that culture that they're building and developing in Prince George.
Yeah, you talk about leadership, but, obviously overage captain Josh Mazer has moved on this year, so there is a void to fill there down the road. Obviously, Caden Brown won't be doing that this year, but come the 2021-22 WHL regular season as a 16-year-old, he'll get the opportunity to step in and make an impact for the Prince George Cougars. We're humming along, continue to move at a great rate here. The 18th overall pick, we're now awaiting that selection. The Spokane Chiefs are on the clock, and plenty of excitement in Spokane this year. It's a shame that the regular season and the playoffs had to end the way that they did. Adam Beckman having an outstanding campaign for the Chiefs, Ty Smith as well, and plenty of good things to feel good about in Spokane. And they're now on the clock with the 18th overall pick, and it looks like we have a selection in the system here. So with the 18th overall pick in the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft, the Spokane Chiefs select from Edmonton, Alberta, of NAX Bantam Prep, defenseman Sage Weinstein. Ty Smith is on his way out, Zach. That's a big defensive piece that's moving on from Spokane down the road. How does Sage Weinstein help to fill that void?
Well, let's not put those expectations on him before he's even got to training camp. But what they are going to get is a very good defenseman. They're getting a guy who's going to play his own end first and then play on the offensive side of the puck. He is a player that when he's playing on the defensive side, he makes sure he's not getting beat. He's got good body positioning. He's got his stick, either taking away a pass or taking away a lane to the shooting to the net. He plays well and he communicates very well with the other players on the ice. He talks with them. He lets them know, hey, we're missing a guy in the slot. Who's got him? He's a leader. He's going to be a guy that comes into that Spokane system. Again, they've got very good players there, and they've got very good players returning. They've got Manny Viveros, who's running the bench now, one of the best coaches in the Western Hockey League, and he's going to get that opportunity to see what it's like at the next level. He's not going to be expected to come into training camp and blow people away. He's going to be come into training camp and play the same way you've been playing, and then continue that development. At 16, he has every opportunity to make that team, and he'll continue to get better and better, just like every player that goes through that Spokane system does year after year.
We're winding down towards the end of the first round of the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft. Defenseman Sage Weinstein is the latest off the board. He goes 18th overall to the Spokane Chiefs. Next up, with the 19th overall pick, we have the Kamloops Blazers. We'll wait to see what they do in this spot, but Kamloops, another team, they staked out their claim to a BC Division title in the abbreviated season that we had this year, and exciting times ahead still for General Manager Matt Bardsley and the Blazers. So we'll await their selection here at 19. But Zach, what do you like about the Kamloops program and where it seems to be headed right now under Matt Bardsley?
Well, I mean, Matt's done a terrific job. Kudos also to Robbie Sandlin, their director of scouting, and all of their scouting staff. I mean, you look at last year's draft for them, they got Mats Lindgren, who has already played several games in the Western Hockey League and does not look out of place even as a 15-year-old. They got Connor Levis, another first-round pick. But maybe the best pick they picked and the best pick they made last year, and no offense to those other two players, but Dylan Ernst is a second-round pick. He's a Saskatoon, was unbelievable at the WHL Cup this year. He represented Team Canada at the Youth Olympics, and he is going to succeed Dylan Garland as the starting goalie in a few years of the Kamloops Blazers.
We have the Kamloops Blazers in the system. So with the 19th overall pick at the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft, the Kamloops Blazers select from Langley, British Columbia, of West Van Academy, defenseman Hamill. You talked about Mats Lindgren, first-round pick defenseman from last year's Bantam Draft. Caden Hamill now joins the Kamloops Blazers to bolster the back end. What can you tell us about him?
He reminds me a lot of Shea Theodore at this age. He's a big, lanky guy, skates very well, offensive. I believe I was once called this a riverboat gambler. I used it a little bit about Jurcevic. Well, Caden Hamill really is a riverboat gambler. He loves to play the game of hockey. He loves to play on offense. And he's going to need to learn how to play defense-first hockey when you get to the Western Hockey League. But I feel like with the team they have, and especially playing for Sean Clouston, he's going to let him play. his style of game to an extent. He's going to get the puck. He's going to be in the rush. He's going to be making plays. He's going to be below the goal line. He's an exciting player to watch, and he's a very, very fun player to watch at the same time. He also plays a physical game as well. He likes to be feisty. He's a guy that, again, is going to have that opportunity to make the Western Hockey League at a 16-year-old defenseman, which is very difficult to do. But for him, going into training camp next year, go in, learn from those older players, have fun, play your game. You can learn how to play defense once you get to the Western Hockey League. I'm not saying he doesn't know how. What I'm trying to say is he likes to play offense. And the coach, when you get to the league, there's a little disconnect sometimes between what you want to do and what the team needs you to do. And then once you figure that out, then you start incorporating your game more into that game plan.
It's all a part of the development process. Caden Hamill, defenseman, the Lord, at number 19 to the Kamloops Blazers. The Edmonton Oil Kings have the 20th overall selection, and they waste no time. So with the 20th overall selection in the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft, the Edmonton Oil Kings select from the SEAC Tigers Bantam program forward Dawson Seitz. Zach, Dawson Seitz is off the board. He goes 20th overall to the Edmonton Oil Kings. What can you tell us about Dawson and how he adds to an Oil Kings group that is really strong right now?
Well, for Dawson, he had an injury-shortened season, only getting in 7 regular season games this year. In those 7 games, he scored 7 goals, so he's a goal-a-game guy. But for him, I think just getting back to the player he was to start the season, he came in back for the team's playoff run. He had 5 points in 5 games. Playing in SEAC, they're a weaker program in the Alberta Major Bantam Hockey League. And for him, you need to find ways to keep motivated as one of the best players in your area. Next year, he'll be moving up to Midget AAA. He'll be more challenged, like we've talked about with a few of these other players. But for him right now, just go to training camp, keep playing what you've learned, and compete as hard as you can. Try to stay for training camp as much as you can. You missed a lot of last season. Try to get as many reps with as many of these good Western Hockey League players as you can. He's going to be fine. He's a goal scorer. He's a competitor. And he's a really good pick for the Edmonton Oil Kings.
Dawson Seitz, he goes 20th overall to the Edmonton Oil Kings. Next up on the clock, with the 21st overall pick, the second last pick of the first round of the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft, it's the Swift Current Broncos. They're on the clock now as we speak, so we await for their selection. This is a big pick for Swift Current. You consider the fact they're one of those teams that went on one of those runs, paid off, and won the WHL championship in 2018, and now they're working on restocking things. So they acquired in a trade this past season with the Everett Silvertips, sending Casper Pudio and Ethan Renier to the Everett Silvertips. So the return, or part of the return, is this first round pick, which will be a big part of their future. And we have that pick entered here. So with the 21st overall selection in the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft, the Swift Current Broncos select from Regina of the Regina Monarchs forward Brady Burney. Zach, Saskatchewan player off the board. He gets to stay at home. The Swift Current Broncos take Brady Burney, 21st overall. What can you tell us about him?
Brady Burney, he played with Sam Ormba, who was drafted earlier to the Seattle Thunderbirds. He's a smaller forward, tremendously skilled. He set up Sam. He had 130 points this year, so both of them played off each other very well. What he does, he fits in with the other players they've already selected. Matthew Ward is the same style of player that he is. They can be a terror in the Western Hockey League together, using their size, which although they're both small, they use that to their advantage. I played with a guy who did that tremendously well in Brendan Gallagher, and their speed and their skill. When you can work off another player who's similar to you and as talented as you, can think the game as quickly as you can be a menace on other teams' defenses. Defense breaks down when skill gets involved with competitiveness, and that's something that these two guys can do. For Swift Current, they're one of these teams in that retooling phase. They gave up a lot when they went on that run several years ago in which they won the Western Hockey League Championship, and now they're going through the process of restocking their cupboards and getting back to being a very competitive and very good Western Hockey League team.
21st overall, the Swift Current Broncos take Brady Burney. He's from Regina. He's the latest to join the Swift Current Broncos. We're down to the last pick, Zach. We've called this team's name out a few times, but it's the Prince George Cougars again. They'll wrap up the first round here with the 22nd overall selection, a third opportunity for General Manager Mark Lamb at the draft table here. And we await that final pick from the Prince George Cougars to close out the first round. Can let everybody know that following a quick wrap up here, we will be concluding our live streaming coverage. There will be a 15-minute intermission following the conclusion of the first round, and then after that, the second round will get underway. .ca pick by pick. With that in mind, we've got the 22nd overall pick entered into the system. So on that note, with the 22nd overall selection in the first round of the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft, the Prince George Cougars from Lloydminster, Alberta, of the Lloydminster Bobcats, forward Riker Singer. So Zach Riker Singer joins the Prince George Cougars. He's the 22nd overall pick in the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft. What can you tell us about Riker?
Well, I don't know about you, but I've been watching The Last Dance on Netflix here the last couple of days. And what I've noticed is that Michael Bull's team was incredibly competitive. They had a competitive culture. We've talked about culture a lot. What Riker Singer is going to bring to that group of the other two guys they've drafted in the first round, plus the 2 first-round picks they had last year, was an intense, competitive atmosphere. He plays the game as hard as he can every single shift. Now, sometimes it gets him into trouble. He did have over 120 penalty minutes in the Alberta Major Bantam Hockey League this year, but he's a very, very, very good forward. Off the rush, he pushes teams back, and he has arguably the best shot off the rush. It's a very quick release. Catches a lot of goalies off balance or not ready for it. When he gets to the Western Hockey League, he just needs to keep playing the exact same physical way he's playing. He needs to mix it up the way he mixed it up the last 2 years in the Bantam AAA League, and he needs to just continue what he's doing, but just be a little bit smarter with some of the penalties he takes. Without that, keep your competitive edge. He's a very good player, and another guy that's coming into that Prince George team that has so many of these high-end players that he could be a really, really important part of this team as they try to compete for a championship in 2 to 3 years here.
So 3 first-round picks for the Prince George Cougars at the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft. Right comes out the first round at big names. When you look at the transition of the Western League, if you go watch a game today, you are blown away by how quick the puck moves, and these players follow in that exact same mold. For our teams, there's still there's 15 rounds. Last year we had a pick at the end of the. Thank you for that, Gary, and your team. But need skill and smarts, and if you can have all 3 of those with an incredible drive, but also move up to the professional ranks. Again, just like Josh Morrissey taught, and we play this is at the end of the day, doesn't matter if you go in the first round, if you go undrafted, it's an invite you get to training camp. That's about the Josh Morrissey interview. We have plenty of content at WHL.ca, both to across all of our social to keep tuned for the rest of the day. And beyond that, we have a live at WHA/draft. So for folks at home who are wanting to continue following along, those are the do it. But in our 15-minute intermission between the first and second round, why don't we just go through a quick recap, run our way through what happened here. In the top with the first overall pick, the Regina Pats. No surprise here. They add exceptional North Vancouver and the West Van. A big there at number Prince George Cougars with the second overall selection. Another big add. 3 selections for Prince round in 2020. Right down to the of Dundurn. Another player off that make an impact for the Warriors down the road here. The 4th overall pick belonged to the Tri-City Americans. General Manager Bob Torrey calls out Lucas Dragicevic. He's a defenseman from Delta Academy, a native of Richmond, BC. So the Tri-City Americans add a nice defensive piece to fill out rest moving forward here. At number 5, the Saskatoon Blades hold a pick that originally belonged to the Regina Pats, and they make good on that pick, taking defenseman Tanner Molendijk, Kamloops, BC. So Kamloops-born defenseman, Saskatoon Blades. The 6th overall pick belonged to Brent Sutter and the Red Deer Rebels, and they WHL bloodlines. They take forward Kalen Lind with the 6th overall pick. He's from Swift Current, a product of the Swift Current Broncos Bantam AA program. Kalen Lind, a brother of former Kelowna Rocket Cole Lind, who is now in the Vancouver Canucks system, most recently playing in the American. 7th overall, the Seattle Thunderbirds were on the clock. General Manager Bill LaFleur to take forward Sam Aremba, product of Regina, Saskatchewan, out of the Regina Monarchs Bantam AA program. Big forward in Sam Aremba. He heads to the Seattle Thunderbirds. At 8th overall, that selection belonged to the Kelowna Rockets, and they stay in British Columbia. Zach, you talked about them liking this program. They take forward the Vancouver native. He spent last season with the St. George school, their Bantam Prep program. So Andrew Crystal goes 8th overall to the Kelowna Rockets. 9th overall, he was an Alberta product that Zach, a little bit in our preview show, talked a little bit off the top here. The Victoria Royals with the 9th overall selection. He's a product of Fort McMurray, Alberta, and skated last year with the OHA Edmonton Bantam Prep. Rounding out the top 10 picks in the first round of the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft was the Vancouver Giants. And with the 10th overall selection, they go to Lloydminster, Alberta. And from the Lloydminster Bobcats, Midget AAA program, they take defenseman Mazda Clock, and they used that pick to take defenseman Reed Anderson from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, of the Saskatoon Bantam AA Generals. So Reed Anderson is off to the Gas City and Medicine Hat at 11 overall. The 12th, Jeff Chenouth and Director of Scouting Dallas Thompson used that selection on forward Oliver Tulk from Gibsons, BC. He spent last year with the Delta Hockey Academy. take Weyburn, Saskatchewan product. Okay. So man joins the Bantam Draft. In Manitoba, it was the Winnipeg Ice. They head back out to BC, selecting Chilliwack product and a forward from Yale Hockey Academy. 15th overall, we stay in the East Division. This time we move over to Saskatchewan and a little bit. They use their Terrell Goldsmith. He's a defenseman out of Delta Hockey Academy. So another big defenseman heading to Prince Albert. The Raiders take Terrell Goldsmith at 15. The 16th overall pick belonged to general manager Peter Anholt and the Lethbridge Hurricanes. They stay in Alberta. They head north to Edmonton. They take forward Cole Miller of the Edmonton KC Squires program. So Lethbridge Hurricanes, after hearing his name called, 16th overall. 17th overall, club that we're all going to be very familiar with here very soon, the Prince George Cougars. They're on the clock for the second in the first WHL Bantam Draft. They add another forward. They add another forward ship to the table. Richmond, BC, another Delta Hockey Academy. Brown goes 17th overall to the Prince George Cougars. 18th overall, it's the Spokane Chiefs and general manager Scott Carter on the clock, and they use their selection to take Edmonton, Alberta product of the Northern Alberta Extreme program. So Sage Weinstein, another defenseman joining the Spokane Chiefs program with the 18th overall pick here in 2020. The 19th overall selection, that belonged to the Kamloops. They stay right at home in BC. They go and use their selection to take Langley product, defenseman Caden Hamill. He joins the Kamloops Blazers there at 19th overall, coming from the West Vancouver Warriors program. Last three picks in the first round of the 2020 W Draft. 20th overall, it belonged to Kurt Hill, Porter, and the Edmonds. And with that 20th overall, Kings called forward from the SEAC Tigers Bantam AAA program. So Dawson Seitz, the latest prospect to join the Edmonton Oil Kings. The 21st overall pick belonged to the Swift Current Broncos, and they used again on another Saskatchewan-grown, born Brady Burney. Forward Brady Burney joins the Swift Current Broncos. He comes from the Regina Monarchs program, and here's his name called 21st overall. Finally, the last pick of the first round in the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft. It was the third pick for the Prince George Cougars. Singer is a product of Lloydminster, Alberta, and the Lloydminster Bobcats program. He goes 22nd overall to the Prince George Cougars, and that wraps up the first round selections of the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft. That's all we've got for you today here on our live streaming coverage of the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft. My name is for the Western Hockey League. On behalf of Zach Hodder, Manager of Player Development for the Western Hockey League, we thank you for joining us today. We wish all the players the best of luck. Best wish round will be starting momentarily. Feel free to follow along at whl.ca. pretty. And I think we'll have pretty good numbers when this is all said and done. We actually timed that pretty well.